Okay, back with you again. And I guess you want me to be brief, right?
In the next
we preempt most of the things that I'm supposed to say in the morning, but well, we will try and go over them again. As introduce in the morning, Eric Asuman, the GR of Ghana, Director General for Ghana Meteorological Agency. Presentation will look at some. I can't stand here without introduce my own organization to you as Ghana Meteorological Agency, and then tell you about the background and relevance for climate services, sustainable climate services, as we discussed in the morning, some challenges that the Met services faces. We're up to some case studies, which I'll use my own country and Benin as an example. So, Ghana Meteorological Agency is a state-established institution by an act of parliament, a semi-autonomous institution to provide meteorological services in the country and also ensure international standards. It's important to me to make this point because given the participants in the room, it interests you to know that this is a semi-autonomous institution established by an act of parliament, which can own its own assets. It can sue and be sued, and have its own structure, even though under the umbrella of a ministry. We provide various services, weather and climate services. So we have marine, state of the sea, and ocean services. Specifically, have a unit that focus on that. That same unit also provides services for inland water. We have a very big dam in Ghana, Water Basin, and we provide specific forecasts for the ocean basin. The dam, Water Dam. In Ghana, we are the institution mandated to provide aeronautical and meteorological services, and that's why we talk about cost recovery and we get aviation to pay us for the services that we provide. We also provide public weather forecasts, which comes every 6 hours. In fact, it's 24-hour updated every 6 hours. And then also when we observe significant weather, we come out with warnings. We also provide soft to seasonal forecasts. Currently, we are working on climate projections, 50 years, 100 years to come, in the form of a climate atlas. We started working on it, and it will come out by close of the year, first atlas for Ghana. We run breakout weather prediction, particularly WAF model. And then, as Met institution, collect all the weather parameters, the data, quality control it, and archive it for research and for analysis. We use various means of disseminating our information, very heavy on the social media and the traditional media. So that is the Ghana Meteorological Agency for you. Our key strategic goals is to strengthen our income generating capacity and improve our infrastructure and logistics, enhance our human capital, and above all, improve our service delivery. Our structure allows us, as I said, as a semi-autonomous institution to generate our own income. And so strengthen our income generating capacity is critical for us. And if you're able to do that, we'll be able to purchase your equipment and your technologies in addressing our infrastructure and logistics. The relevance of climate services or sustainable climate services has been spoken about heavily in the morning. Africa is very vulnerable when it comes to the impact of severe weather. And it is important for us to integrate meteorological and hydrological data to provide information to help decision makers, to warn our society, to protect life and property. But our goal here is to enhance sustainable climate service that supports resilient communities and our economies. And we can only do this when we have a very innovative way of generating revenue and using this revenue to sustain the services that we are providing, to ensure adaptation strategies and economic development. If you look at the impact of extreme weather events on our economies, it's enormous. I mean, if you are going back, the Paris Agreement, 1.5 degrees Celsius respiratory temperature, which we already exceeded, its impact going through to the century is great on our economies, our GDP. But we're already exceeding that. And so if you look at the 2.0 degrees over the period, you can see its impact on our economies. So the impact of climate change and the fact that we need to have sustainable climate services to inform decisions to help our economies to build resilience and come out with strategies, adaptation strategies for us to survive in the advent of climate change cannot be overemphasized. And what do we find? How do we find ourselves? As a Met institution, we are underfunded. There's a big data gap and difficulty in data sharing. We have infrastructure and technology that are old, and then the capacity of our staff to go with the speed of technology and modernization is also a problematic. In the light of this, there's a need for us to mobilize the necessary resources, both financial and non-financial, to support our operations. This will help us to have very effective and reliable early warning. Reliable in the sense that it's timely and it's accurate. To have a long-term sustainable climate services, not 9-day wonder, not one-off, continuously improving on the services to inform decision-making, build capacity, and technical expertise of this National Meteorological Services. That's why I talk about capacitating the Met institution, have a very good relationship with the private sector. In fact, if you want to engage us and we come and you have nothing to offer, we are coming from zero ground, it will not be good for us to have partnership. Your partner has to put something on the table, you putting something on the table, working together to address the need of the user. And so mobilizing enough resources and building our capacity ourselves or internally help us to partner with the private sector to have a very good working relationship. Also addressing the gaps as identified earlier in terms of data collection tools and logistics and technology. And in so doing, we'll be able to provide the necessary information to help disaster risk reduction, agriculture, water management, and the rest. And also address the SDG 13. So how do we do this? How do we mobilize these resources to help the Met institutions, the innovative way of mobilizing resources? And I was looking at the public-private engagement where we can collaborate with private sector to come out with various business models to generate the services, to commercialize the service, and then have revenue sharing agreements to support the Met services. It can also be in the form of data sharing. I use Tamo here, because Tamo have about around 100 stations in Ghana or 90 thereabouts that we share data with them. So instead of us going to spend money to buy that equipment and install, we share data with them, and it's a way of financing us not through giving us money, but giving us data. Working with telcos, as I said in the morning, you can have a model that will have little support or contribution towards the use of our service using the technology. And when you aggregate them, you can a good source of funding for the emerging institutions. I mean, green bonds can be explored. Funding established to deal with climate issues. You can see how you take advantage of that blended finance, where you are talking about combining grants, loans, and private investments. In this area, there have been a couple of conversations with some of you here and some of the private sector players. I think the challenge is we've not been able to, as in Ghana, come out with a very good model that will be beneficial and actionable for the institution coming from where we are coming from as a public institution. I think the private sector who want to engage us in this light must understand where we are also coming from and the challenges that we have in dealing with private sector when it comes to this area. If you are dealing with an institution like Ghana Meteorological Agency as a private sector to work with us to generate the service and commercialize it, and your approach is that you should be giving some funding and some payment ahead of time for us to engage, it will be difficult because so doing, we are talking about procurement. The question is, how do I procure you? There are laws that govern the public sector how we procure. And so for me to engage you and to be able to advance money ahead of time for us to get the service developed and then generate the revenue and share will be very problematic because our budgets are approved by our parliament. You need to go to finance and says you want to engage this company in doing this service, and then they're asking us to pay $1 million or $500,000 to access their technology, be able to use it to generate the service. The question is why that company and not another company? Public service institution, stringent rules when it comes to procurement. And so we need to understand ourselves and see the mechanism that can be used that will help us partner you be able to deliver the service and generate the revenue and share the revenue. But if you come in with upfront payments, it creates some problems. And so we need to look at that. I put the live forms in red color because in this area, I have an organization, and this organization is talking to us, want to do everything for the organization, upload, how do we call it, pre-finance, everything that you need, and then give you a period of time to pay back. So the private sector will want to provide all the logistics that you need in terms of equipment, in terms of buildings, renovations, technology that you need, value it, and give you a period of time to pay back. That's another model that's being discussed in Ghana now. But in that arrangement, you can definitely be aware that the decision will not be the Director General who is taking. It may be some bigger players interested in this. And so these nuances comes in when you are dealing with a public service institution when it comes to partnering with the private sector. Then looking at monetizing our climate data and our climate services. Also very important in the morning, my sister spoke about insurance. And as the insurance is dependent on their services to insure the farmers, I believe some arrangements should be made for the emerging institution to benefit from it. In fact, recently we were approached by a World Food Program to give a service to a certain number of farmers, about 35,000 farmers, and in doing so, have to give them a proposal for them to pay us for giving that service for them. And I think it's starting next week. And so that's a way of monetizing our services. And I spoke about using the construction company and want to even legislate it. And I spoke about ITF curves, which they use extensively in their operation. And for now, the request and we invoice them, they pay and we give them the service. We want to move to the next level where it will be legislated, and then we'll get it seamlessly. And then using, as I say, technology, crowdfunding, digital crowdfunding. We tried this using our social media platform, our Facebook account. But when we're getting to the levels that we're going to make money out of it, for some strange reasons, we were kind of cut off, banned by Facebook because we have used, they claim, some artwork that was original. And so then some partners, so we are still battling with them to get our accounts back. And we believe in using the social media extensively and getting people using it can generate revenue for the Met institutions. I spoke in my concluding part in the morning about using proposals. The Met institution, the climate, weather and climate services cells. Now, because of the advent of climate change, any proposal that have issue to do with food security and what have you that have weather and climate services in it, attract funding. And I believe we can work with you. If you want to work with us and let us, have some model, we can work together and generate a proposal and get the funding, and by so doing, move us away from the complexity of procurement in our countries. Because we have worked with you to generate the funding, automatically you become the one providing the services, pay from the proposal that has gotten funding. Again, as Met PRs, we can also take advantage of some projects, internationally funded projects in our countries, make a good case and get some logistics from those projects to support our operation. And that's why I put together these examples. The Food System Resilient Project, FSRP project, is a regional project, an integrated management information system. We are looking for a system that will integrate all our data from the in-situ, radar, satellite, display them on the screens, automatically generate the forecasting, and use the system to disseminate. It's a very complex system that we want, and out of this project, we make a case that we should capacitate the institution. In fact, in the project proposal, they have proposed to buy for the agency 20 automatic weather stations to help us also give them weather and climate services to support the achievement of the project objective. We went there and argued that automatic weather station alone doesn't give a forecast. It's a means of collecting the data. We want something beyond just giving us automatic weather station. We made a strong case, and they agreed to buy this MIS for us, Integrated Management Information System. They've done a tender, kindly is at the World Bank meeting for the approval. The contract will be awarded, and then you have the system installed taking advantage of existing projects funded by World Bank to get some logistics into the organization. Again, just last week, this climate resilient landscape for sustainable livelihood in Northern Ghana is a project that we participated with the Ministry of Agri, Environmental Protection Agency, and Water Resources Commission, and it got funded and approval from Green Cabinet Fund about 2 weeks ago. And in that project, they are going to get for GMet an expand radar and about 10 automatic weather stations and some other financial support. And in fact, in this project, we are going to enter an agreement with GMet. So in Ghana, it's only these 4 institutions I mentioned, it's only UNEP and Ghana Met that are going to enter agreement with UNEP to receive the funding and manage it in getting this. This is not dependent on our government budget. It's through proposal that we are going to get funding. And I hope to get close to about 10 million USD out of this to support the operations of the agency. Another project that is getting us on free equipment is the Greater Accra Resilient Integrated Development Project, GARID. In fact, GARID has already gotten for us 1 expand radar waiting to be installed, provided by one of the participants in this workshop. And it's going to help us have a flood early warning system that we are going to have the Environmental Protection Agency, the hydro authority and the Met people in one room working on a flood early warning system and giving us expand 18 automatic rain gauges and 2 AWS automatic weather stations in outer time, also funded by World Bank. Another project is GDEP. GDEP is Ghana Data Research Project. In fact, this project was going to get us 105 automatic weather stations. Now the change of government and some restrictions from IMF, which Ghana is under now, is affecting that number of AWS that we have been to get for that project. But that notwithstanding, we've gotten about 3 pickups and 40 desktop computers, 35 laptops, and 120 tablets for the project. This is not from GOG funding. It's just projects that we are leveraging on. And another project in 2020 got us 12 automatic weather stations funded by IFAD, and then another, we transformed 10 automatic weather stations. So you can see leveraging on projects that are already, funding has been secure for the country, making a case we can get logistics to fill this infrastructure gap. And again, also through project proposal. In fact, we have a number of project proposals pending, waiting for approval that are going through the process. And I believe we'll get a number of them approved and get funding from those sources to also support our operations. Now the case study. Now I come to Ghana Meteorological Agency when it comes to cost recovery. I made that point in the morning. We used to have an MOU with Ghana Civil Aviation, where they were supposed to cede 10% of landing charge to Ghana Meteorological Agency as part of cost recovery. They were not respecting the MOU. They were not honoring it. And so we started agitating. In fact, at some point, aviation was splitted and we created what they call it, airport company, and then aviation separate. Now, two of them splitted the landing charge that they charge. So airport company then took 60% of the landing charge, aviation took 40% of the landing charge. Now airport company says, well, we didn't sign the agreement with you. Your agreement was with aviation, so we have nothing to do with you, even though they are taking 60% of the landing charge, so they won't mind us. Aviation also said that, well, this is money that has been split between the two. If they will not pay, why should we be the one paying? So none of them was paying the money to us. In fact, what we did was to then use the government system. So my brother in the morning will understand why sometimes we will not be able to do the real transparent calculation of the cost to charge, but how to take some advantage that is available to you as a state institution. Yes, so we went to a minister at the time, went to cabinet, and requested now not 10% for landing, but 10% landing, 10% en routes, and 10% airport tax. In fact, back and forth, cabinet approved 10% landing, 10% en route, and 5% airport tax. Airport tax because in Ghana, the airport tax, which is state revenue, has been ceded to the airport company to use it to develop the airport and manage the airport. Our argument is that wherever there's an airport, there should be the best institution there. So if you are giving money for the airport people to manage the space, we should be there. Who give us money to also carry ourselves along with the airport company and aviation? And so that percentage that has been, that's money that has been ceded to the airport company, the percentage should be given to the net people. So as they develop the airport, we can also develop ourselves in the airport environment. It was a very serious fight between us, aviation, and airport company, because they are revenue and they don't let it go. And that's why they made an agreement that tell us how much it costs you in providing it. This time around, they want us to tell us how much it costs us, provide them the service, then they will pay. We say no, give us the percentage. Whether it is more or less, we want the percentage. And we went to Parliament in 2019, it was passed. True to what my brother said in the morning. COVID came 2020. Airport is closed. So we can't get the money. Airport companies who are reaching themselves needed a bailout. So how are they going to give you 10%, 5%, 10%. There was a problem. But gradually, COVID faded out. And then they still will not pay because they were arguing that they've not come back to post-COVID era. And they still have a lot of problems in honoring their own obligation that they have not given our portion. But the argument has been that we don't use our money to deal with your problem. Use your money to deal with your problem, not our share. So back and forth, I ended up in IATA because I was of the view that that is the source where the money is collected and dispersed to airport company and civil aviation. So let me go to the source. Because the money comes to them and ask for our percentage, they say they won't pay, and they are holding it. And because they are powerful, sometimes there's little you can do to them. The worst scenario is take the service from them, go on strike. If I go on strike and you are coming to Ghana, you are airborne, you can't land, the presidency will call me and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And so it was a difficult decision to take. So we went to IATA and said, we want our money from source. When you did that, this is the amendments to Ghana's Act, which says that give us this percentages. So in sending the money back to them, give our own to us before we send theirs to them. So that it doesn't go through them. That's why I had a meeting with IATA here. IATA tells me that, yes, we collect the money on their behalf and we send it to them. But you're not part of our association. This is an association. So how do we comply with our orders? For us to be able to do this, we need airport company and civil aviation to give us an authorization letter to authorize us to give our money to you direct. And these are the people who don't want to pay their money. So how was I going to get them to give me the authorization letter? So now I come back with my troubles. But then we need to work behind the scene to get them appreciate why they should do this. So gradually, we managed to get airport company to sign the authorization letter in 2023. And so when the letter was signed and sent to IATA, IATA began to set GMet portion of the receivables that goes to airport company aside for GMet. After setting us up in their system, tests run, and started sending the money to us direct. So now our money that airport company is supposed to give it to us doesn't go through them again, direct from IATA straight to our account in Bank of Ghana. And that's giving us a lot of revenue these days. But there are two companies, civil aviation. Civil aviation still haven't given us that letter. In fact, I got the airport company to comply with this because we got in some new chief executives and he was a bit, was not part of the fight when we were doing the amendments. So he was prepared to do the right thing by following the law. But aviation people have been the people who were doing the fight with and they have vowed not to comply. But fortunately, now I've gotten them at a meeting with the chief executive, current chief executive, who assured me that his board has just been established. And as soon as the board settled, he's going to give us that letter. My argument is that just give me the letter and we just go and sleep. We do the rest. A letter authorizing that IATA should do the work. That's all what I want. And this makes Select Committee of Parliament and makes strong case to them that they need to get the company, the civil aviation, to comply. And fortunately, our current minister has caused their minister to write to them to comply. The reason why now they are talking to me, in fact, they even asked me to give them as a company did it so that they can proceed. And I'm going to get that money this year. And that's going to give us a good source of revenue. These are some of the strategies I was using to get them to pay. In fact, I deliberately brought this thing into an Auditor General's report that went to Parliament that I'm unable to collect money from civil aviation. And so I wanted it to be there so that they will invite me at a public accounts committee in Parliament to make a case why these people are diffusing refusing to comply a law that Parliament itself has passed. It's a strategy I was using to get Parliament attention, to force them to do the needful. Again, as I said, Parliamentary Select Committee, I did a workshop with them, Parliament Service Committee of my ministry, and the heads of Transport Ministry, where aviation comes under, for them to appreciate why they should intervene to get them to pay. So we're using various strategies to get them to pay, and now they agree to pay. I mentioned construction. This is not a story I was thinking. Benin has done it. Benin Met has succeeded in getting their law amended to see 0.5% of pre-tax contract value in Benin to the Met institution. And then the supervisors who supervise the contracts, their payments also, they succeeded in getting 1.5 pre-contract value that is ceded to Benin Met service. Benin doesn't provide aeronautical meteorological services because ASECNA does it in that environment. But through the construction, they're also getting a lot of revenue. Fortunately for me, there's an opportunity for us to amend our act now. And I'm going to have a meeting with the team, the lawyers that has been put together to help us review our act. And that's what I'm going to push them to also do same in Ghana. So I get aviation, I get construction legislated. The rest we do the services and sell and use the business models to get the money to ensure sustainable financing of climate services in Ghana. You know all these things, I don't have to belabor it. All the financing institutions across the globe, many of them not here, that we can write proposals and get funding from. But the red one is what I spoke about earlier. Let's leverage on various projects going on in our country to get some of the logistics that we need, and it's possible. So let me conclude by saying that we need all of you to help the advocacy to get the policymakers, our governments, international community to support the Met institutions. When we are capacitated and are very resourceful, we can have very reasonable arrangements with you, the private sector. If you come and have nothing to show, you yourself are not comfortable working with us. If you are autonomous, because we have funding, sustainable funding to run our institution, engaging you becomes easy because you are autonomous. You know how to go through these complex public service rules and procurement troubles in engaging you. So this advocacy is on all of us to do. We need to strengthen our regional collaboration, and here, AU is not here, and I'm happy some issue. That's started 2 weeks ago in Namibia, where they have to find a way of, getting the presidents at that level take interest in the merchant institutions and support us. Let me see, our government should increase our domestic funding allocation, private sector investment in climate resilience infrastructure, and international partners support blended funding initiative. And academia and NGOs, and all of you here gathered, we need to take the necessary actions to ensure that the merchant institutions are properly capacitated to ensure sustainable climate funding. We require, diversified funding. And it's critical so that we don't put all our eggs in one basket. And then I spoke about communication, and that's where the economic impact assessment comes in. We need to communicate to policy. Our brother in the morning spoke about the fact that, our work is linked up to other institutions. Here I'm talking to the PRs here present. We should know that our output is an input from other institutions, and that point must be strongly made. We shouldn't look ourselves in some island or in isolation and finish our work and then we finish. Others must appreciate how our work impacts on them. So I told the Minister of Agri that we want to ensure food security in the country. And Ghana is a rain-fed country, agriculture. So if you capacitate me and be able to provide very good weather forecasts, in a way, you are achieving the objective for food security in the country. Under this FSRP project, I have this conversation with you. It promised me that anything about GMet that comes to him, you will approve. Because he can relate and identify himself with the work that we do and its impact on his output. And that's the point here, that we need to communicate our services. And I always say that in doing it, sometimes we need the social scientists to help us, because they can speak the language that ordinary person can understand than we, the scientists, ourselves. I think I've said a lot. Thank you very much.